Hello and welcome to the World Wanderers podcast. My name is Ryan.
I'm Amanda and we're your hosts.
And today on the podcast we have an interview.
Still working on those sound effects. Yes, we have Gloria Molins, who is the CEO and founder of a company called Trip for Real, which is based out of Barcelona, Spain.
And Trip for Real is a platform that links travelers and tourists with locals in cities, right now just in Europe, who have knowledge of the city and offer cool experiences. So there's things like graffiti tours and yoga on the beach and other stuff like that.
Cooking classes, taking them like tourists to more local bars. So not the type of places you'd read about in a guest book, more of like that local watering hole.
And it's something that I think that we both kind of philosophically align with, in that after traveling for a while, you get kind of bored of doing the things that everybody's doing, like going to church, going to the blah, blah, blah. You're in the hostel and like, oh, I went to the blah, blah, blah. And I go, yeah. But
okay.
It's like it offers you really authentic experiences instead of led tours that take you to, you know, the same restaurants and the same places that everyone else is going. It offers this like really diverse range of opportunities, and it's really like emergent. So there's no person who's like, this is what tourists need to see. It's people who have skills who are offering those things, and then tourists can be like, oh, hey, that sounds fun, that sounds interesting. So it's really cool. And it also allows for people to just become entrepreneurs in their own cities and link up with people from other places around the world, to make some money, but also to share their knowledge and experience.
Yeah, definitely. It's a pretty amazing service. I'm excited to check it out the next time we're in Europe. And so one of the reasons that we wanted to have Gloria on the podcast was that her company is really aligned with the way that Ryan and I really like to travel and the things that we believe in as travelers. So we wanted to hear her story and sort of where her passion for travel came from and how her love of traveling the world really turned into this business that she's super passionate about. And we're not being sponsored by Trip for Real or anything like that. So the interview is really coming from a place of curiosity about the business and how she started it and everything sort of in between.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot that people who have had experience going on long trips and feeling inspired to create something will really relate to about the story of how she started it. Yeah,
definitely. So without further ado, here's Gloria. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast today, Gloria. It's really cool to have you here. We're really excited to talk about the foundation of Trip for Real and the starting of that company and growing it to be something awesome. But I'd really love to start with your experience with travels and traveling.
Oh, okay. Well, obviously I'm a really passionate traveler. Otherwise I would have never founded Trip for Real. I started, I guess I would say the first time I had like a connection with traveling was when I was 11 years old. Me and my from Barcelona to Chicago for a year. And it wasn't actually traveling, it was living there. So I guess that was the first time when I, realized how different the culture were, how many magic things there are on the world and how really like huge is the world and there's out to discover. Besides this, I've always traveled the world. So I backpacked for 7 months in a row around Southeast Asia and India. I also went like with friends when I was 20 to Brazil for a month. I've been in Africa. I've lived in Australia. So I've quite moved a lot around the globe. Or living in places or spending like long seasons traveling and discovering places, but always like really spontaneous and yeah, just jumping up and down.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah. So what was your favorite place that you went to?
Wow, my favorite place is the world. I love it. Yeah, I think there's something that once a traveler told me, and I think it's really true. How much you love a place, it always depends on where you've been before and where you're going next. And I think there's there's a time for everything. I, for example, enjoy so much India, and I wasn't, I didn't think I was going to like it so much. I was like, people was telling me, wow, it's incredible, it changes your life. And I was like, well, I don't think it's going to be that much. But then I went there. I was 3 months in India. People in India were amazing to me. I got so in touch with the culture. I had no rush, so I had plenty of time. I could, spend as much time as I wanted everywhere where I wanted. So that trip like really, really touched me. But then I also went to Africa for a month, and like how they smile, how they dance, how colorful everything is, also like really, touched me in some way. So I would say I don't have a favorite place. I just love the world.
Yeah.
Did you, when you went on your backpacking trip to India and then Southeast Asia, was that right after university, or was that kind of like a career break?
Yeah, it was a career break. So I was, after university, I was working for a while in Barcelona. Then I moved to Madrid to work. Then I moved to Australia. I started working in Australia. And right there was when I decided to just quit everything. When you're living somewhere that's not your place, kind of, it's really easy to quit and have nothing. Like, I quit my job. I sold, I didn't even have a car. We left, the apartment and everything. And you were like, I had like 20 kilos in my backpack. There wasn't much more that I had. That was perfect and allowed me to really, without any, people worries about so many things that you have. I didn't have anything. So I could, travel around the world while getting back home. And it was for me, I think it was very cool to do it at that age, because I wasn't that young. I've already traveled and I've already worked for a lot of years. Mm-hmm. So I had the money to travel, although I was really on a budget. And I think I had the personality to really like take the most out of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, you'd kind of experienced like the working life, so traveling was like that much better for you.
Exactly. And at the beginning I was really scared, like, am I going to leave everything, like this good job with good salary? Am I going to just really go and travel? What am I going to do? I was always thinking I should Instagram, or I should blog, or I should, do something with it, or I should meet people in these places. But at the end I realized traveling it's kind of an activity itself, all the people you meet, how every day, how you have to find the places to go and discover, or how you have to find places to eat, or have to find places to sleep and everything. So every day you're kind of, working in something. And plus I really love to discover places and to plan. So I was like reading, in the 18-hour trains, I was reading for my next destination, and then in the next destination I was talking to all the locals, and then I was finding a good accommodation. Normally when you really fell in love with a place, you would stay longer. So you would, once you had the first accommodation, you find the perfect accommodation and the cool bar, and then you move, and then, I think traveling itself, it's amazing. It's super fulfilling.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, we can both definitely relate to that. By the end of 7 months, how were you feeling about being in Southeast Asia and India? Were you like ready to go back and settle down somewhere, or were you kind of like still wanting to go farther?
I think I was both. I was really, really I was actually working on my startup while traveling. So I used all that time to finish my business plan, to buy the domain, to start planning everything, to do the mock-ups of the web, design everything. So I was traveling while I was starting my company. So there was a point where I thought, wow, I'm ready now to go back to Barcelona after 7 years of living abroad. I want to get back to my own city. I want to start my company. I want to settle. But on the other hand, I could have traveled for like 4 more months or 6 more or 7 more, because I was in India, and I was like, why not, 1 more Nepal, and then maybe, because, we traveled from Australia to Indonesia, from Indonesia to Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, and then we jumped to Sri Lanka, then India, from down to all the way up, so you could continue for ages.
Yeah, Yeah, traveling's kind of like, it's almost contagious like that. Like you start going and you're like, I will just go this place. And then people tell you about other places and you're like, well, it's so close. I could just go here. Like I could just stay one more week.
Yeah, totally. So I remember the last week, and it was, we had to be really impulsive. So when I decided I was going home, I had to buy the ticket that day and leaving 3 days after, because otherwise I knew I would, have not go back to Barcelona. So, and at that moment we were like, what about Annapurna, trekking, and then going back, so there's always something to visit.
Yeah, there's always something more that you can see or do, which is
exactly.
It's kind of like the hard thing about traveling.
And the entire time you were living abroad, had you always had a plan to become an entrepreneur and to go traveling, or was that something that kind of developed as you were there?
Well, I think since I've lived in different cities, like I've lived in Holland, I've lived in the US, I've lived in Australia, I've lived in Barcelona, Madrid, different places. I think I always kind of had this thing inside of wanting to go and travel the world. Or at least, there's always places that I want to discover, but I don't know. I think it was really spontaneous. Like suddenly I was in a moment in Australia where I was thinking, what should I do? Go back to Barcelona and settle, change jobs, change cities and move to Buenos Aires, or go travel. So, and then suddenly it was like, go traveling, quit everything, go, So it wasn't much planned with me. I have friends that planned it for a year, so.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of like starting your business, was that something that you had the idea for a while, or?
Starting my business was the same. Yeah, I think when I was 23 and I moved to Madrid to do my master's, I remember the first question they ask you in your master's, like, why are you here? I remember saying I want to study and get more, know more about this because one day I want to start my company. So I guess I always had kind of my, like the entrepreneurship spirit or something inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both of us are pretty like entrepreneurial minded, and we were thinking about how like you have this love for travel and you've like founded or started a business as well. Do you think it's kind of like when you travel, you find all this freedom and you don't want to really go back and be confined to a job in somebody else's terms? Do you think that's part of it, or?
I think it's true that nowadays people is more and more independent. I truly believe in the future there's going to be more freelancers than just people working in companies. But I don't think it's only about traveling. I think it's about how we are now, how millennials are now. We consume all the information. We can work from everywhere. Mm-hmm. We don't want to be in just one place 8 hours every day. We want to move around, or at least we want to have jobs that are exciting and we don't know what's going to happen in 6 months. We kind of, I think there has been a change, and that's a social change or a change in the culture or way of living that young people has now. I think traveling also is part of that, but it's, people now want to be travel bloggers, they want to travel the world while they work. And I think nowadays with internet it's possible, and with social networks. So yeah, I think you kind of, want freedom. But on the other hand, in my case, it was more I wanted to do something I was passionate about. Mm-hmm. And the company that I built, I'm super passionate about. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to succeed or not, but I'm super passionate. I love the concept, and I love every day spending time here and thinking that I don't know what's going to happen in 6 months. That's what I love.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. Mm. And so at what point did you have the idea for Trip for Real? Like, was there a certain like tour you were on or place you were in where you had that idea?
Well, I was kind of like going through a lot of things, but I remember being in Australia, in Sydney, going to work and I used to write down ideas that I had and stuff like this. Like, I was kind of getting to know the startup world and all these technology companies, which before I hadn't known that much. And I just, I wanted to travel. So there was so many things together. And I kind of realized that, I had this conversation, saying, hey, like really traveling is about people, not places, And then from that conversation, I was like, hey, what about putting a company that puts together locals and travelers, for them to blah, blah, blah. And then from there, like it all made sense. And while I was traveling, it really allowed me to really talk to the other travelers, ask them what they thought about it, or even myself experience it. All the trip that I did for 7 months was super local focus. So I did couch surfing. I stayed with a guy from Bombay that was like, had his apartment and I was sleeping on the floor there. I was with a family in India. I was just kind of like getting together with the local culture and I thought it really made sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Were you kind of just drawn to like being with the locals as opposed to sort of doing the more tourist stuff?
Well, I think my trip was kind of that. The idea was born before I left on the trip, but during the trip, I definitely confirmed that. I didn't like all the activities they were suggesting me as a tourist, and I loved everything that happened to me meeting and connecting with locals. Even locals that I found on the street, and that day when there's a strike on the buses and everything, you cannot rent a car. You're in a town that has nothing, and it's super boring, and you don't know what's going to happen. So you found that fine. I would be in that situation and I would find a local and I would, suggest to him, do you have a car? Do you want to earn some money? Do you want to take me around and show me your place? And they would be like, what? I don't do that, but yeah, let's do it. And that was, the best moments of my trip were that, like with someone local, and for the locals was awesome. They even contact me again. Hey, if you have friends wanting to do this again. So I think I realized that it made sense, to connect with the local cultures while traveling.
Yeah, and it's just so much more fulfilling about when it's just like a real experience that doesn't feel like that inauthenticity that you get sometimes, especially we've traveled Southeast Asia before and we did a few tours there and you get this like feeling of like there's so much inauthenticity of like you visit a factory or you visit like this is a traditional blah blah blah.
Yeah. So I would skip all these things. So I didn't sign for any activity. What I would do is read the activity and then try to find a local that could, do with me the opposite to that activity. I don't know if like, for example, there was cooking classes around there. So what I would do is I would walk to the street and then meet someone local and say, hey, do you want to invite me to your home and have dinner? I'm going to pay for you. We can go to the market. I pay everything. And, you start chatting and you kind of have friends and then you go to the market and then next day they invite you again and then you meet the kids. And so I would do that. Yeah. And that is what I enjoyed most about my trip. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you just put yourself out there to do that. I feel like lots of people are held back by like the fear of things they read in the media or that they read on the internet about like bad things happening to people in places.
Well, I think you have to be careful, but to be honest, I've traveled a lot around the world and nothing bad ever has happened to me. Like nothing. I think it's always a bit of when you're scared and you're constantly like thinking something's going to happen to you, you kind of attract that, I think when you feel secure and you're comfortable and everything, I think, traveling is obviously you have to be careful and obviously you have to have four eyes watching and be careful in what you do, but I've never had any bad experience, never. But that's a little bit why I decided to launch Trip for Real as it is now. It's, I think traveling is about people, not places. And that's why a Trip for Real kind of gives you the security of, knowing that there's a company behind that has curated these people. And, you have the opportunity, hey, say I'm going to Lombok, for example, or I'm going to, I don't know, whatever, Latam or to Paris. I can just check, the locals in this site and then connect with them, Maybe it's not that scary for some people.
So how is Trip for Real curated? Is it pretty much just exclusively based on the reputation system, or do you guys do some curation on your end as well?
Curation. Yeah, so there's obviously it's based on the reputation, but then there is curation from our side. So in some cities, we just have the validation process, which we receive, we check, it has a validation checklist and everything. In some places, we even get in touch with the locals. In some places, they kind of have to go through an interview process and selection process to be listed. So it depends on the places. It's not the same to recruit people in Barcelona or to recruit people in I don't know, Venezuela, maybe, where right now there's more like, you could be more insecure or whatever. So we kind of try on curating depending on the places. Yeah.
So if somebody wants to, like they think they have something cool to offer, like they're like, I'm a fabulous cook, I'd love to share that with people. Do they sort of apply for it and then you guys approve them? Is that how it works?
Yeah. So you just, they just go on the site and they, want to become a local, they add all the information, they submit it, and then if our quality team validates it, they're published, Sometimes, maybe the quality team gets back to you and asks you to change some things or improve some things, but you have to apply to be listed.
And what are some of the weirder things that you have seen go up? Where things where you were like, oh, whoa, that's so bizarre. No one would want that, but then it ends up becoming popular.
Well, we have so many things so bizarre. I don't know, but I don't know. For example, the butterfly tour. I was like, what, a tour in Barcelona that's all related to butterflies and how they live and how they do. And I didn't even know there was butterflies in Barcelona. For example. And then suddenly, people that love butterflies loves it. Or for example, graffiti tours. We have graffiti tours in each city, or street art tours in each city in Europe. And I never knew, but I think it's an amazing way to discover a European city, for example, through the kind of street art around all the cities. There's amazing street art in London, Paris, Lisbon, Rome, and Barcelona, for example.
Yeah.
I think I like the ones on, for example, spending time with someone that's good at something, going to a private apartment of a gallerist and seeing the private collection and having lunch with that artist, or going fishing with a fisherman, and just joining him for a sunset or something like this. So I think, there's plenty. We have 5,000 offerings. So,
and it's amazing because it allows for so much more, such a diverse range of activities than you get before with all these kind of centralized tours. It's people thinking, what do tourists want to see? They want to see waterfalls and churches.
Yeah.
Versus with something like this, people can offer whatever they're good at that's maybe a little bit less normal, and then you find out that those things are actually popular.
Yes. So if you realize, why do we see the things that we see? Because of tourist guides and because of other people's recommendation that have seen tourist guides. So there's not a why we see the things that we see when we go to Paris, for example. Why do we go to Louvre and see Mona Lisa? Why do we go to the Tour Eiffel? Why do we go? So there's obviously part of the culture, and they're obviously really amazing sites and everything with huge culture and everything. But we do it because it's in a guide. And why discover the Mona Lisa, going to the Louvre, spending 2 hours on the line, watching the Louvre right there, or I don't know, going with an artist that tells you about the history of that, So, why going to Rome, for example, and only going to the Fontana di Trevi and everything, which is amazing, and I love to go and I love to see, obviously, but why not spending a day with a family that has worked on gelato all their life,
Mm-hmm.
And they can tell you how gelato is, how they live and everything. So I think there's a lot more about traveling that hasn't been popular so far, but will become popular. And it's getting together and mixing with the culture. So I'm more interested in going to Rome and meeting that family, or going to see the Florence art with an artist that's actually studying that and can tell me all about it. Or, just going to Lisbon and doing surf with a guy that surfs there since he was born, you know. I'm more interested about that. That's why we believe that you only know a place when you really know its people. So there's a lot more. I think a person can tell you a lot more than a guide. It's up to date, you know. It's the reality, and I think that's going to change. Yeah, I think that's one of the positive things about it.
Yeah, and then on the other side, you have so many people who have such a diverse range of like knowledge and skills and valuable information. Whereas before, maybe if you're someone who's really good at surfing, but you suck at job interviews, so you can't get like a job as a surf instructor. But now you just have to actually have the skills. So it's kind of taking away gatekeepers for a whole range of other jobs.
I think there's more skills. Exactly. Yeah. I think you actually, there's more skills. So, we're all different, and I think we can all show something and share something. So I totally agree on that. On the other hand, there's more passion on doing it. So, if I'm a guide for something and that's my job, and I do it every day 10 times, I'm sure I'm not going to be as passionate as if it's something I love and I'm doing every now and then with travelers that love what I do. So I think it's about skills, it's about passion, and it's about also of returning the money to the community. So it's not just the money staying in the tourism companies or intermediates or things like this. It's actually the local person that's offering something. It's getting the money, you know. And I think that's also a positive impact on tourism.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It's kind of like going along with what Ryan said, is it's kind of creating a shift, you know? So it's like these massive companies that create this sort of like buzz around them, get in a guidebook, people go, and then there's these people who are like, well, you know, I'm really great at activity X, but I don't know how to like market myself. I don't know how to create my business. I don't have the funds to do that. And
totally.
It kind of gives them the opportunity to share that with other people.
Yeah, totally. And I think if you think on your last trip, you know, that local people there that has a lot to say and that, you know, is incredible and are passionate about what they do and everything, they deserve to get the money, not just a company that probably isn't from that country getting all the from the tourism, no? So
yeah, and especially when you go on a tour and they control your entire day. So the restaurants you eat at, the like shops you visit, like they kind of take a cut of everything, and your money doesn't really get around.
Exactly. So we're kind of marionettes as tourists. You know, we go where the guide tells us, and then you know we kind of get in this, how to call it, like touristic bucket where, you know, we're just stuck there and we cannot go out. Until now, everyone has told us what to do as tourists, you know, what to see, where to go, how to go, where to eat, as you said. I think right now, thanks to a lot of startups, internet startups, travel startups, and obviously I think internet, which is, you know, there's access to information from all over the world. I think that has made a huge change in the industry. I think now travelers can, like dream and discover and get a lot of inspiration online. You know, so you kind of get the information, and you kind of are able to see a lot more than you were before. I think we're all kind of independent. We like to plan our own trip, you know, buy the transport by ourselves, and even our accommodation. You know, we want to decide where to sleep, if it's a hotel, an apartment, or whatever. But you know, where in the city, or where, we're close to what or whatever. And there's reviews from other travelers. So there's so many information that allows us to now go a little bit off the beaten path, or even just to get out of this circuit that is kind of repeating again and again, and that, you know, we thought it was the only one.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm a really big fan of the sharing economy, and how technological innovation is like really helping us to decentralize a lot of systems and really improve a lot of people's lives. But one thing that kind of opposes a lot of that is government regulation. So I was just curious if you guys have ran into any problems with regulations around tour guides and food. I know there's quite a few stories of that for other companies like Airbnb and Uber.
Yeah, not really from our side. What we found is that the best locals actually that list in our site are normally freelancers already. So it's already people that has a specific knowledge or passion, and they're probably doing things by themselves and just, working themselves out. And they see Trip for Real as an option of, making an extra money, related to whatever they love or their interests are. So, amateurs that are actually listed on Trip for Real and they have their own jobs and everything, it's not that many. So, am I explaining myself? It's
yeah, and I know in a lot of cities there's regulations around, there'll be a tourism office that gives licenses to tour guides and stuff like that. Has that caused any issues?
No, actually, tourist guides love our service because it's a way for them to promote individually and to get more work on things that, don't have to have so much limits. They just can upload and have the flexibility they want to. Mm-hmm. They can be creative with us.
Yeah, which is amazing. So what was the process of starting Trip for Real like? It must have been pretty crazy starting this from the ground up and creating something that's grown so much.
Yeah, I think, the process was amazing. I loved the process from the idea to till now. So as you guys said, I think I had so many energy from my trip, my 7 months trip. And I got so many energy from India. When I came back to Barcelona, I was 1 year nonstop working a lot, not sleeping, but enjoying it. So I kind of think that part of I'm kind of grateful to that trip because it gave me the strength, energy, and motivation I needed to start up. I think it's crazy. I think it's amazing. I think it's like a roller coaster. I think it demands a lot of time and a lot of work, but it's so, there's so much passion and you're kind of doing what you love. And I think that, that has no limits. When you're doing what you love, you don't get tired and you can, work as much as you have to. So for me, it was the idea in Australia, in Sydney, quitting my job, going traveling, while traveling, finishing my business plan, buying the domain. I remember I was couch surfing in Cambodia in a house of locals in Cambodia, and there was no electricity, no water, no anything. So I was there. I remember I called my mom, from a phone or something. I was like, hey, please buy the domain name of Trip for Real. I decided it has to be the name. And she was like, buy the what, So I had to guide her through to buy me the domain because the Trip for Real was actually my travel blog. Before I decided to make it the name of the company. So during the trip, I finished all these things, I remember from a hostel that I was in India, designing the website. So I did all this. And when I came to Barcelona, I was full energy. I was super happy. I was in a really good moment of my life. And I had the to-do list, which was, infinite, to get started. And that's what I did. I started.
Was there any point where you were oh man, this is crazy. I'm investing a lot of money and time into this. What if it doesn't work? Or did you just have faith that I love this and I'm just going to go with it?
I think the good thing was that I was a little bit unconscious. I don't know if you say it right in English. So I was so motivated and so happy with the idea and loved everything so much. And I was in such a good moment of my life that I was kind of not seeing the problems that I might have. So I was spending the money, but I was so sure it was going to happen. So I was never thinking that what if it doesn't work? So it was a little bit crazy. Yeah, the beginning was a little bit crazy. Now that I see it, I'm like, would I start again? A startup right now where I am right now? Maybe if I go 6 months traveling after that, yes. Before, no.
Why do you think that doing a bit of a long backpacking trip kind of improves like your level of courage or like risk tolerance or maybe faith in yourself?
So I think traveling gives you a lot of things. But one is definitely it helps with your creativity. So you see so many different things, ways of doing one same thing that allows you to be really creative in life. Obviously, as we said as well, traveling allows you to daydream. It allows you to really discover things, to see different perspectives of life. It allows you to, be really problem solving. It allows you to be patient. I think it gives you so many values. I think, always doing all my trips, not only this one, like all my trips, I think I learned something. I kind of, every trip completes me a little bit more as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I'm curious about so you had this idea, you came back. Did you have somebody that was sort of like helping you with the startup of Trip for Real, or was it kind of just like you dove in on your own and slowly like gathered employees, or how did that sort of happen?
Yeah, I was actually by myself at the beginning because I was living in Australia and then moving to Barcelona. So it was not that I did that with a co-founder or something. That would have been awesome, but it wasn't. So the first thing I did when I came here is build a team. And I was really lucky with that. I found 3 people and those are like the founding team till now. We're still together. We're still working with this. And they were kind of, they were not founders because they started when the process, the idea was a lot developed and everything was started and everything, but they are the founding team, we're together. They helped me from the beginning and I would have never done what I've done without, them. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think it's important to have like a good support system when you're growing something like that.
For me, team is what's most important. So in all the life of Trip for Real, I had so much fun and there was no moment where I really thought this was not possible or where I was really sad because I was enjoying every moment and I was kind of celebrating every little thing. I think that's super important to celebrate small achievements because if you're waiting for the big one, it might never come. So, that's something I did that really helped me. I think the team is super important. And I think right now, I have a team that's awesome. They share the values. I think one value is, we always say Dharma plus. So I want good people here. I want people that's really, a good person. I don't care if they're not that good at their job or whatever, but I want good people. And actually this Christmas when we were having the dinner of the company and everything, a few of them told me, hey, look at the team that you've created. Like, it's really fun. It's really cool people. They're all really have good human values. And I'm super proud of that. I think it's the most important. I prefer that than having the best in their fields and not having human values.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I know you've got to get going in a couple minutes, but I just have 2 kind of specific questions. For people who have been very successful at running a tour or experience on Trip for Real, are there some people who are doing it completely full time, making a good amount of money just on Trip for Real?
Yeah, so we actually had, a few surprises or stories that you love, that you suddenly receive an email saying, hi, I used to work in a bank. My passion was, yoga. I started doing yoga by the beach at Trip for Real with travelers. And then right now, it helped me, risk a little bit and decide to quit my job in the bank and work and, full time on what I love doing. So, and that's just a real story, but we had more people actually quitting their jobs and deciding to, with Trip for Real and probably other things that they're doing to really focus their life on what they love. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's great to like, not only, you get to build something that's successful and is good for you, but it also helps a lot of other people as well.
Exactly.
And have you noticed anything in common between people who start something on Trip for Real and it works out well, they get something about their listings, versus people who start something and kind of just settle and don't go anywhere with their listings?
You mean the people that start their own company or adds a listing?
Yeah, so someone who's like adding a listing to Trip for Real and it's new, if you look at a new listing, can you kind of spot like, oh, that one's going to go on and be successful? And what are those things that...
Well, you can, but I want to be super, like, I never kind of bet the things that come in or try to be as more, give it like really the local, the flexibility as they, maximum flexibility, because sometimes we've received things that we thought they were not going to sell or that were not interesting or the tourists didn't want or whatever. And then we realized travelers loved it and it was like the top sales. So, so I think, who knows, like there's a lot of people in the world is huge and we all have different interests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I know we've only got like 1 minute left, so I just have one more question for you. What cities can people find Trip for Real in? Because I know it's grown quite a bit.
Yeah, so right now we're in 12 cities across Europe. We're growing. We're going to launch more cities in the next few months. And we're going to probably start, and that's kind of like a good news and fresh news, start launching Latin America like really soon.
Oh, amazing. I feel like it'd be so great in Latin American countries.
Yeah. So you're going to be able to go to Europe or to Latin America and see the locals that you really have to know to discover that place really well.
Amazing. Is there anything else you wanted to share about Trip for Real before we wrap this up?
Well, I would say to any person that loves traveling, I would say do it, as much as you can. I think it's always super positive. And if you don't know if you love it, do it, because you have to try it to see if you love it, and you're going to will. I mean, you're going to love it. I had a post, we were talking about benefits, and once I had a post, I think traveling helps you be more patient. I think it helps you be able to improvise in different situations. I think it helps you a lot to have a huge instinct, because instinct is accumulated information and travel gives you a lot of information. I think it gives you happiness, and it gives you the possibility to be able to simplify things. Things are not as complicated as we think. It gives you confidence as well, and it gives you humbleness. So you become more humble. So there's infinite positive things about traveling. So I would suggest to people to travel, to meet people across the globe, and to discover the world.
Amazing. I love that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. It's been
perfect, guys. I love your podcast. Your podcast. Let's be connected and let's see if you guys come to Barcelona soon.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll be happy to host you around.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Gloria.
Thanks, Gloria.
Great. Thank you.
Bye.
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 So that's the interview with Gloria. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun talking with Gloria and hearing all about her travels. And I feel like her passion for traveling and her business really just comes through in the way that she talks. So that's really incredible to hear and to experience.
Absolutely. And if you want to check out Trip for Real, it is trip4real.com. Yeah,
definitely go visit the website, check it out, especially if you're in the Europe area. And if you want...
Europe area. Does North Africa count?
European Union.
And if you want the show notes to this episode, which you probably do, they are on theworldwanderers.com.
Yeah. And if you want to join the social media community, you can find us, The World Wanderers, on Facebook or Twitter. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, or you just want to say hi to us, which we love hearing from anyone out there who's listening to the podcast. Send us an email at info@theworldwanderers.com, or we've got a contact page where you can reach us on our website. And we've got a super cool guide on South America that's out for your viewing, enjoying pleasure. So if you want a copy of that, sign up for our newsletter and we'll send you one. And as always, thanks for listening.
Thank you.